But no, this is not based on scarcity. This is based on abundance. We have the tools to produce an abundance for everyone. For everyone. And how do you do it? Here's the good part. You don't need money in this society. You don't need money. But you say, how the heck am I going to go out and buy something if I don't have money? We have an idea that's very revolutionary, very new. And that is the idea that time, we live on this planet for a certain amount of time. We're born, we grow up to be adolescents, we grow into maturity, then we grow into old age, we finally die. That's the cycle of life. Okay? It's based on time. You're here for a certain duration of time. Time is a element of measurement that is common to the universe, that we can understand. If you're a theoretical physicist, you can argue that time changes with space continuum and so on. But right here, while we're conscious, we have a concept of time, hours, minutes, seconds that we live in. There's so many hours on this planet. The payment system for you and I, when we go to work, is time. For every hour I put into my workplace, guess what? I get to spend that hour, so to speak, in the marketplace for any goods and service that embodies in it 1 hour or 10 hours. In 1946, Henry Ford did a survey. He wanted to know how much labor time it took to make one Ford automobile. That's from digging the raw materials, the rubber, mining, all the way up to final assembly, making the steel, everything. Final assembly, he came up with a figure roughly 50 hours. With that technology they had in 1946, it took 50 hours to produce one Ford automobile. Okay? Today, that's probably, with technology, that's probably reduced to half that at least, or even more. Let's say 20 hours. That means that embodied in that Ford automobile is 20 hours worth of congealed labor time. Not money, not wages, labor time. Time. We can exchange our labor time for anything out there. So if I work 20 hours, I can go buy that car. I can exchange my labor time equally. No profit involved, just my labor time for that labor time. Why? Because we all produced it. It's our product. I don't make the car. I'm making hats or whatever. But I can take my labor time and exchange it for any goods and service out there that embodies that idea, that same amount of time. So that's, and everybody else does the same thing. Your time is as valuable as mine. My time is as valuable as yours. We're all contributing to the total product, the total wealth of our society. We're all part of it, no matter what job you do. I like to use the example of a hospital. People say, well, in this time, isn't a doctor's time more valuable than my time? In essence, no. And I'll have to explain why. Take a hospital as an example. What's the product of a hospital? What's the purpose of a hospital? It's to cure sick people. It's to help sick people get better. Once they're better, they don't need the hospital anymore, right? So that's their product, us, healthy people. In that process, you have the doctors, you have the nurses, you have the staff, you have the administrator, the secretary, and you have the garbage person down at maybe in the basement, taking out the medical waste. Well, if that garbage man doesn't remove that medical waste, infection spreads throughout the hospital. Who's more valuable in producing the product? Healthy people. The doctor, the nurse, the administrator, the garbage man. They're all essential to the product. Their time is equal in terms of producing that product. And we have to realize that we're all in this together. We're all doing this. We all contribute to the product, to the wealth of our nation.
That raises some questions.
Okay, so that raised a question. Yeah, the question of bartering. So I'm talking about what? No, the economic system of the time voucher is not bartering. Bartering existed before the idea of money. And the problem with bartering, it was limited. If I made cakes and you made corn, boy, we could barter. I like my cakes for your corn. But if I wanted to have something else that didn't want like my cakes, I couldn't do anything. So money was invented to smooth that process out. So now I make cakes and I sell it to you for money. Then I can take that money, which is neutral, and I can go exchange it for another product. So money, the invention of money, was a big improvement over bartering. Bartering's going backwards. It really is. It can happen in dire circumstances, but it's very limited. It doesn't produce a dynamic society, that's for sure. Now we're going beyond money. It's the next stage. We're going into the time voucher. We're exchanging our labor time for the products and services that we all collectively create. So that's the idea. Yes, sir.
What's the theory about filling jobs that are undesirable?
Okay, good, very good question. What? Like mine, right? You know, let's face it, we live in societies that, I use the old example, I grew up in the coal fields of Pennsylvania, so what about the coal miner? A very dangerous job when I was growing up, coal miner. Who wants to be a coal miner? You know, that's a dangerous job. How is his time the same value as my time? Well, a very dangerous job. Yes. Okay, here's how I would suggest it. Remember, everyone in this society has a voice, has an opinion. We can discuss this. How are we going to democratically and fairly administrate these dangerous jobs? One idea is job rotation. Maybe you're a coal miner, but be a coal miner for 6 weeks. Maybe, and then get out of there, and we'll get someone, you know, we can shorten our times in dangerous situations through a lot of jobs, so you don't have to stay in there all your life on your knees scraping coal, where you get crippled and everything else. So that reduces the danger. The second thing is technology. I was talking to a guy from Hazleton, Pennsylvania yesterday. He's from the coal mining region up there. And I said, how's coal mining doing up there? He says, oh, they're producing coal, but they've laid everybody off. I said, how? He says, it's all robotics now. It's all machines in there. So there's an example. Our technology can go in and do these most dangerous jobs. And guess what? We don't lose our own wealth from that. We gain it. Right now, under capitalism, in a profit society, if a new technology is introduced, like those robots into the coal mine or the auto industry, all they do is displace workers who are out on the unemployment line. And the owners get the new profits that these robots create. Under our system, guess what? They're labor time-saving devices, where we can shorten our work weeks and still get the benefit of what is produced by those robotics. In other words, they produce wealth, those robots. We're going to share. The humans are the ones that are going to benefit from it. So this idea of dangerous jobs, it comes up all the time. If you're these guys who are fixing the Washington Monument up there to repelling, well, guess what? They were interviewing one the other day. He loves it. He thinks this is the greatest thing. Oh man, I'm up here. I can see it for miles. I love it. It's a dangerous job. I wouldn't want to do it. Guess what? He wouldn't think of doing anything else. So what we think is limiting sometimes is not. And so I would say we would rationally discuss how we can decrease the danger in any industry with the best safeguards, the best safety devices we can come up with. Those would be number one priorities, because we wouldn't have the constraints of profit limiting us like we do today, where the industries fight OSHA, which is right over here, environmental protection, in that building right there. That's EPA right there. They can't do anything. I was talking to one of the workers yesterday. They can't do a thing to modify these industries. They pollute them. They throw the garbage down the stream and everything, and they can't do a damn thing about it because the industries, they've got the Congress totally in their pocket. They can't get any kind of reform at all. She was all frustrated. We're working right there. So it's right here. We're doing it every day. We're going to work, but we don't have the control. We don't have the power to determine how we're going to live. Stop the machine, right? Create a new world, right? Yes.
So under your society, would you have...
Your society.
Our society.
Our society.
Would there be any banking system?
Any banking system. Not in terms of accumulated wealth, in terms of investments and so on. There would be records of your labor time devices. For right now, what do? I go to any store, take out my credit card, I punch it in, and they have a record of everything I've spent from... In fact, I do all my billing that way. I just use my credit card, I pay it off every month, so they don't charge me interest, but it's a great itemized list of where I've been and what I've been doing. It's the way I keep records. We would certainly have computerization and all the latest technology to keep track of our labor time, and we could draw on it. Now, you might say, here's a good question I forgot about, but what about non-productive things in society? You know, not everything's made in an industry. We have, for instance, we have education, we have schools, we have public roads, we have the public sector, as we call it today, hospitals and so on. They don't really create wealth, but they service us who do create the wealth. How are they going to be compensated? Well, there would be taxes in this idea. We would all take out of our common time and add to a common fund for that. For instance, if I get hired or not hired, but if I did volunteer or whatever, I want to work in a factory. I've only been there one day. I've only accumulated 8 hours of time, but I get sick, which might take 100 hours to cure me of accumulated labor time. I still have that privilege because that store is there. For instance, I wouldn't mind every hour giving up 6 minutes of taxes to the common store. We can have a bank of... Someone said where there'll be banks. Yeah, you could have a bank of accumulated labor time to take care of people who haven't produced it one-to-one, for whatever situation, and for the public good. You know, we might need a road or we might need a public facility that isn't a commodity to buy or a product, but needs to be serviced.